they don't realize that.
Oh, no.
They don't realize that they're working on these things, building this team, and that's the reason it works so efficient. And
It's
so-
months and even a year in advance of a presidential election that the auditor's area is working with us.
And I applaud you for getting things.
And if I was to do like a temporary or something, it would be over $14 an hour. But you also wouldn't get the same person every time.
Sure.
And that's where it's really nice that I can pull her in.
So would she actually be running or she's running the staff?
She'll just be assisting with the staff and that type of thing, just to kind of keep an eye on everything that's kind of going on and such. So kind of helping. Cindy and I can't do it all type of thing.
Sure.
So we just need someone who has the experience
So
and such.
she's full-time during the elections.
Yeah, whenever I can pull her in. She does have
She's not
another.
full-time during the year.
No, absolutely.
That's what I wanted.
No,
Okay.
just,
I wanted
it
to
just
say.
says, yeah, it's a temporary election clerk. Whenever I need somebody to work with us, she gets pulled in. And it just depends on the election as to when we do pull her in, because there's a lot of stuff that no one sees behind the scenes. And so, like, for instance, we're completely redoing our election room. We've been working on that, Friday my husband came in and Cindy's husband came in and we revamped the whole, the look of it. And so now you can actually walk up to a station and that's that precinct. Everything is together. Before they were standing on things, trying to program it, it just didn't make sense. And so, yeah, so just those type of changes, that does take a lot of time. The nice thing about Carol too is that she's very meticulous. And she actually is in charge of the vault at Meskwaki, so at night.
Really?
So yeah, so we have someone that is very particular, takes care of things, and the nice thing is I can call her and she'll let me know if she's available. And I think there's been one time that she had to take someone to school or do something. Other than that, she's
Another
always
number
here.
cruncher.
Yeah, another number cruncher. Yeah.
I recognize 3 of the 4 names here, but the 4th one I don't.
There's only 3 on the election.
That's Blake is conservation.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's another.
Yeah.
that's why.
Right.
Okay.
Well,
So-
we'll just start off with, we need a motion, and we'll have to do each one individually with a motion
Yep.
from the first one, Carol Slifer.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I would move to accept the personnel action of Carol Slifer, Auditor and Recorder's Office, temporary election clerk, full-time, change rate of pay from $9 to $13, effective August 23rd, 2016.
Mr. Chairman, I will second that.
I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Ravenhurst.
Yes.
Patton.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
On the second one, the change rate of pay for Harold Crannell, Auditor and Recorder's Office, temporary equipment delivery, change of rate of pay from $10 to $13, effective August 23rd, 2016.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we approve the personnel action for Harold Crannell, Auditor's Recorder's Office, temporary equipment delivery from 10 to 13 hours, effective August 23rd, 2016.
Mr. Chairman, second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just a question, can anybody tell me how long both Harold and Keith Nowak have been?
A long time. I didn't get it.
I
a
can't
long
remember
time.
an election where those two have not been moving the equipment back and forth, can
And the
you?
thing
No,
the thing you need to think of is they're moving over $300,000 worth
Yeah.
of equipment. And this isn't where, like with Carol, I can bring her in, for a weeks at a time or a couple of weeks. But the delivery guys is only a few days before the election and a few days after. And it just depends on what type of election and how many precincts and when we can get in. So it could be where they're only working 5 or 6 days and that's it. But those are long days for them.
But they're very valuable to your program because they know what to do, they know where, they just been doing long enough where they know what they're doing.
Yeah, and I've been sending, since I was appointed and stuff, Blaze Work from my office has been going out with them and he's kind of in charge.
That seems like that works pretty good.
Yep, that's worked out great, and it also gives us the opportunity to know what's going on out there. I think there was a lack of not knowing what was going in and stuff, so this way we know for sure.
Sure.
Blaze actually sets the schedule, he works with the people.
Sure.
And so then that way, it makes it the most efficient when they actually are outgoing.
Sure.
So.
Okay. All right, we've had a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
We don't have a motion for Keith.
Yes.
No, we're at Harold.
We're on
Harold.
We're still on Harold.
Oh, we're, okay, my fault.
So roll call?
Roll call,
Okay.
please.
Gravenbauer,
Yes.
Patton,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Okay, now.
Now we're going to Keith Noack, Auditor Recorder's Office, temporary equipment delivery rate of, change rate of pay from 10 to 13, effective August 23rd, 2016. Now you can make your motion.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I move that we, personnel action, to approve the personnel action, change rate of pay for Keith Noack, Auditor and Recorder's Office, temporary equipment delivery, change rate of pay from $10 to $13, effective August 23rd, 2016.
Mr. Chairman, I will second that.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Gravenbauer,
Yes.
Patton,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Moving on to item D, hire Blake Jesse, Conservation, fall temporary seasonal rate of pay $10 an hour, effective August 23rd, 2016. Mike, is there anything you need to want to say? This,
It's a temporary position up till November 10, or until, and I know he's looking for a full-time position, so I may be back in 2 weeks with another temporary hire to replace Blake. So revolving door.
yeah, that's a good program that you got going. We've talked about this.
Our guys we brought in the spring, are they just about all wrapped up for the season?
One is back at Iowa State, the other will be here until September 6th.
I think that's a good way for kind of you can see the employees too, so you might want to put on it full time, so.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Good job. I'll entertain a motion on this.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we approve personnel hire of Blake Jesse, Conservation, full-time, temporary, seasonal rate of pay $10 an hour, effective August 23rd, 2016.
Mr. Chairman, I'd second that.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Gravenbauer,
Yes.
Patton,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Moving on up to item number 8, Region 6 Housing Trust Fund. This resolution to approve the Region 6 Housing Trust Fund Marshall County required cash contribution. This is resolution number 2016-0033. And Marty, would you like to comment on that?
Good morning. Marty Wymore with Region 6 Planning Commission and Housing Trust Fund. The mission of the Region 6 Housing Trust Fund is to increase the supply of quality, affordable housing across Hardin, Marshall, Poweshiek, and Tama counties. The trust fund has existed since about 2011, and we've done a number of projects here across Marshall County. Over the last 3 years, we've spent $431,000 across Marshall County. Most of the projects have been improving owner-occupied housing. We've done 2 rental projects down the street here with Tall Corn Towers and the Iowa Wholesale Building, but the other 19 projects were for owner-occupied housing. We've done projects in Marshalltown, Melbourne, St. Anthony, State Center, LeGrand, Dunbar, and Ferguson.
Was that 19 in 3 years?
Yeah, 19 over 3 years and 431,000 over 3 years. About 24% of that 431,000 has been from Marshall County funds. We've relied and appreciated you guys for your ongoing support of the trust fund. Obviously, without your support, we can't access the state funds, which have been about 76% of that 431,000. So Marshall County's put in about 102,000, and the state of Iowa about 329,000.
That's it. We need to approve this resolution for the state to be.
Right,
involved.
right. So annually, we request money from all 4 counties to provide local match for the program, and that match is divided per capita across the 4 counties, and likewise, we track expenditures per capita across the 4 counties as well.
Do all 4 counties participate?
All 4 counties participate, and all have been very supportive. So.
Can you tell me how much of this is staff expense and how much
roughly
actually
about
goes?
10% of the total cost is for administrative expenses. We have to verify incomes, inspect homes, and go through application process.
And that's where we've got Mike Wenzine and our other
Right.
gentlemen out doing inspections?
Yes.
Okay. We've also, when we've approved this in the past, this money comes from our low and moderate income housing fund, which is, those dollars can only be spent in low and moderate income housing, and those funds come from the harvester TIF. There is nothing else we can spend them on. You cannot put them into the general fund.
Well, I guess the question, good question would be, I think we've got, what we would figure, maybe a couple of years left in that harvester TIF. What happens when that, would this go away?
Well, we still will have adequate funds left in the low and moderate income housing unless there's something big that comes up that we put in. We instituted $1,250 per unit in the past when somebody is doing a large project that would be multi-unit. But then, so we've taken those dollars out of low and moderate income housing. We've also taken these dollars out of low and moderate income housing. Some other things that might deplete that is if there's some sewer projects out in some of the smaller communities that are in a low and moderate income area, we could use it towards that. But we're pretty restricted as
Right.
to what we can use those funds for. But there's quite a bit of money in there now. So even after those last two portions of the harvester TIF drop off, and I think we originally started with 6 or 7, and we're down to, I believe, 3 portions, and there's no sunset on them. So when they're done, they're done. I think there's 2 years left on the portions of the harvester TIF.
You mean there is a sunset?
There is a sunset, yes.
Oh, yeah, when it's over, it's over.
It's over.
Yeah, the counties, we have not removed the sunsets, so
Right.
when they're
Right.
done, they're done. The only other TIF in the county is the Consumers Energy TIF on the corner there, and that was put in to pay for the pumping station for the sewer, because the
All the flow
the
runs
stuff,
down there.
yeah, it comes from consumers to our lagoons at the sheriff's office.
It runs underneath the Highway 30
Yeah.
and goes down, and that was all engineered properly, correctly, and
Yes.
funded properly.
But those are the only 2 TIFs in the county.
Okay.
Sorry for the long answer.
Anything else you want to add?
No.
We kind of took the tail end here.
Sure. Yeah, you're doing fine.
All right, well, thank you, Mark.
Okay, thank you.
We really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Appreciate you coming.
I'd entertain a motion on this resolution 2016-0033.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we adopt resolution number 2016-0033, Region 6 Housing Trust Fund, Marshall County required cash contribution.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Ravenbauer.
Yes.
Patton.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Move on to item 9, resolution 2016-0034, compensation for election board members, precinct chairperson, resolution 2016-0034. Again, I guess I'll turn back to you
So,
for an explanation.
in my time of experience with working elections now, this is gonna be my 6th one. One thing that I see, and I've been kind of going with some other counties and talking with them, as well as when we're on nationally, kind of talking as to how they handle some of the things. And what they do is we always say that, oh, you're kind of the one in charge, but we always put someone in charge, but we never give them extra pay for that. So there's nothing to entice them, and what that does is it allows them to be more in charge. And I can give them and say, okay, you need to be the one calling your people that are on your staff for that election. And that's how some other counties do it as well. So it's not all of the burden isn't all on us. It's a little bit more on the chairperson who is out there.
How many chairpersons are there?
Well, it would depend on what the election was. So if you have, let's say, 19 precincts, it would be 19. So when you're looking at the big picture
I
of
see.
things, $2 for, maybe a 16-hour day plus some training, that's only like 20 hours, we'll just say. You know, that's maybe $40 a person, you know, plus a little bit of overtime there, but, we just need some way to entice people to do these jobs. And, if we can pay them a little bit more and maybe they'll take on a little bit more, I think that's what we need to start doing. And the other thing is for the future, if, you know, anything were to ever come down where, you know, the minimum wage did move up or any of that type of stuff, what I would recommend is us going to just a paid full rate amount. Like, say you're gonna work this day and it's gonna be, I don't know, just $200 or whatever. That way we can get away from the per hour and not have to worry about that. So that's something that we'll need to look into the future. But at this point, I think we just need to, as you know, precinct workers it's harder and harder to get someone to come in and do that job. It's a long day, it's a lot of training beforehand, and the public, you know, depending on what type of election, can be a harsh thing to deal with, so.
Does the election part of your auditor recorder responsibilities have their own budget?
Yes. Yeah, auditor has its own budget, recorder has its own budget, and so does election.
So when we're talking, you know, we give the helpers a raise, we're looking at giving the chair people a raise. Does this still in your budget, monies in that budget?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I did because I'm finally on my own budget now. And so when I calculated the budget and stuff, I went off of these figures,
Okay.
Knowing that this was something that I was gonna wanna do, for the people and stuff, so.
Okay.
And this way I can make it, what we'll do is we'll do packets for them as to what they're in charge of and what I expect from them. And we're also gonna be doing training separately for the chair people, so they understand all the things that hasn't been done in the past. It's always been just everybody all at once, so.
Yeah, you know, I think it's so important that we get the quality people in there.
We've been lucky, we've got good people that
We've got
work
very
with
good
Dan,
people.
and they seem to be, I know we struggle from time to time getting individuals to work in it, but we do have a pretty good core that keeps coming back, and you sure want to keep them.
Yeah.
Back to the budget on the elections, this is something that in our election cycle and our budget cycle fluctuates quite a bit from year to year. Next year, we will not have
Right.
a gubernatorial nor a presidential election, so the elections portion of the budget will be dramatically less for next year. This year, it's been high. And then I think it's important to note from a budget aspect that when we have special elections, either for the city or somebody else or the city, that those entities pay back the county the costs of those elections.
Like school board.
Yes.
Yes.
That's one of them.
Yeah.
Minus my employees. They do not
Right.
pay anything on my employees. So
No.
any of my overtime, well, not mine, but any of
So what
everybody
if they don't
else's
pay
over-
employees, what else is
They-
there? Because I mean,
Just the precinct officials, the delivery guys, and mileage is what they're code-driven to pay for.
I see, okay.
So even though it puts a huge burden on my staff, and we pay overtime and all that to get it accomplished, we have to eat that cost.
Can you charge them for the use of the machines? Or
We,
you do?
there is,
That's probably part of that
That's
fee.
part of the fee.
Okay.
They pay for the ballots, they pay for the precinct officials, mileage and all that, and the equipment delivery guys. They also pay for some incidentals, like we have to use like some certain envelopes and different things that, and seals and some of those littler things.
But not actually the equipment?
Precinct Atlas, we can do like a rental fee, which
Okay.
is the laptops.
Oh, really?
Okay.
But that's it. The actual equipment, that's something that's
That's
not
us.
charged.
Yeah.
Well,
They
'cause-
do pay for the programming though, which has changed
Really?
since we're not doing internal programming anymore, which would be our cost. Now that we're shipping it off for another company to do it, then we get to charge back because that's a cost to the
How do you
county.
charge, per capita or per precinct, the size of one?
Yeah,
One is
the
smaller than the other
RBM
one?
Yeah, RBM has and I don't have it with me, but they have like a range, like if you have one through this many precincts, it's this amount. You have this from this, it's this amount, that type of thing, so,
Okay. Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, we weren't complaining about the money.
I was.
No,
Well,
no.
Yeah, but, because that's the basis of our country.
Yes.
You know.
Yes. Everybody
We're
expects-
responsible to help make sure this happens.
Yeah.
Elections are obscenely expensive,
Oh, yeah.
but the
Yeah,
alternative
There-
is
yeah.
obscene.
It should be addictive.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, good discussion.
Anyway,
I would entertain a motion on this resolution 2016-0034.
well, Mr. Chairman, I would move to adopt the resolution 2016-0034, which is the compensation rate to be established at $11 per hour for the precinct chairman designated at each election and precinct, effective upon passing of this resolution.
Mr. Chairman, I would second that.
I got a motion and a second for the adoption. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Gravenbauer.
Yes.
Patton.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Moving on, to item number 10, 2015 property tax rates. The listing of tax rates can be found on pages 6 and 7. 6 and 7. We'll just throw it out. You got a lot of notes there from you, Supervisor Thompson, so.
Just comparing our tax rates from this fiscal year to last fiscal year. And I only break down the city of Marshalltown. I do others, but for speed here, I'm just gonna go through what a taxpayer in Marshall County would pay. Your overall levy rate went down 42 cents. Last year, we were $42.77. This year, your total tax is 42.35. Of those two figures, last year, the county took 17.4% of your property tax dollars. This year, the county takes 16.4 cents. So the county reduced its levy by 50 cents from last year, or a reduction of 6.7%. City's up a little bit, school system is ever so slightly down, but your overall tax rate, your millage rate for the city is going to drop 42 cents per thousand. So you're gonna see a little bit less in property tax than you did last year, depending on what your assessment is, but the levy is down. In checking things, the reimbursements for the military exemption and other exemptions were funded by the state. The ag exemption for housing and the rest of it were not totally funded, and that'll be picked up by the county.
Again, I think the thing to be, just for the press, to take note of, the numbers he's quoting you are just for the Marshalltown.
Marshalltown
Yeah.
only.
Marshalltown only, and so they may differ out in the other precincts, other communities, so we need to be careful that we convey the right.
But your county portion of your property tax, regardless of whether you're in the city or in any of the other areas, should be down.
Should be done. The county.
We can't speak to every individual tax rate based upon township or based upon school system or other cities within the county and the incorporated areas. So I've only broken down Marshalltown because that's where the bulk of the population is.
All right.
And something else to keep
Yes.
in mind, sorry to interrupt, but, something to keep in mind as well is that this just has the library on it. This does not include the bond that was just passed.
Yes.
I think people need to understand that that has not come on yet. We've had some
The library
questions.
hasn't come on yet either, has it?
The library is on,
The
Yeah.
library is on, okay.
yes,
Yep,
yes.
they're 18 months in arrears when they do something, and you won't see the city come on until they actually borrow the money, and then there will be 18
18
months
months
after
after.
that borrowing that it actually goes on.
Okay. I would entertain a motion on this item.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we approve the property tax rates for 2015 payable in 2016-17 computed by the Marshall County Auditor and Recorder and approved by the Iowa Department of Management be established as follows on pages 6 and 7.
Mr. Chairman, I would second that.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Gravenbauer.
Yes.
Patton.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
All right, that brings us to item number 11, public forum. This is time set aside for the public to make comments on topics of county business other than those listed on this agenda. No action will be taken on any of these topics brought up in the public forum. Public forum is now open. One at a time, please. One at a time. Seeing nobody coming to the microphone, move on to item number 12. That'll be the adjournment. The next regular session is September 6, 2016 at 9 a.m. All business to be acted upon at that session shall be submitted to the County Auditor and Recorder's Office or the Board of Supervisors' Office by Thursday, September 1st, 2016 at 1 p.m. There will be no further business to come before the board. We are adjourned at 9:32. Thank you very much.